This is my teen drama proposal. As part of the client brief, I was asked to plan ideas for a new pilot episode, and the guidelines that I to follow was the pilot to belong to a drama series aimed at 15 to 21-year-olds and suitable for a low budget. The outline of ideas is that to appeal to the target audience, it will follow 4 teenagers between the ages of 16 to 17 years, and they try to solve a disappearance of the Harper parents, which I'll go on to later on. The themes that will appear in the drama are family, friendship, trust, crime, love and secrecy, and I think that's with these themes that the target audience can relate to these because they've either experienced them or know someone, like at least one of them. My drama is called Down the Rabbit Hole. It follows twins Maddie and Lucas, who have their lives kind of turned upside down and when their parents go missing and they are forced to go into hiding. And it's because their father is a senior police officer, and it becomes a kind of race to solve the case following his disappearance. And because there are also, with the case they have, there are people wanting like information. So it's a bit of a race to figure things out. I focus on 4 primary characters. These are the main characters of the show. So you've got the twins, Maddie and Lucas, and then you've got the other 2 main characters, Jess and Connor, who both have different roles. For to keep with the low budget, unknown actors would be used, and so the target audience can relate to these characters. The actors will be either the same age or realistically portray the ages of the target audience, so between 15 and 21 years. About the characters, the character profiles, Maddie is quite headstrong and impulsive, so she has also a carefree attitude, except when everything falls apart she has this kind of wall, so she tries to keep this front. And she's also known for her wit and her tomboy act, and often seen comedic, so I think that could be relatable to characters and people will enjoy watching her. Her twin brother, though, is quite the opposite, and is quiet and determined. He works hard as a A-level student, but A-star student, but has deeper struggles with bullying. But when forced to solve the case to save his family, he's quite logical, whereas his twin sister is more about action and to care about the consequences later. So you've kind of got those conflicts between them that I think will have engaging storylines straight away in the pilot. Jess is Maddie's best friend as well as her partner in crime, and she, despite living in a small council house, because all from different diverse backgrounds, she's very optimistic and has a bright personality, and her kind of secret is that she has feelings for Maddie, but her family background is like quite religious, so she tries to keep it hidden, except as the series go on, and even shown in the pilot, as their lives are put in danger, it's harder to keep those feelings hidden. Connor is kind of your stereotypical jock, and except that he kind of goes against these stereotypes when he's kind of dragged into this whole kind of mystery hole of what's going on when he finds his father may be involved in the disappearance of the Harpers. So he has to kind of choose between his friends, he's kind of like new friends by being dragged into this, or to protect his family. He also later in the series proves to be a possible love interest for Maddie. The title connotations for Down the Rabbit Hole was inspired by the fairy tale Alice in Wonderland, and this is because the twins were kind of forced to disappear, so they will kind of unexpectedly fall down this trap of spirals, and they are kind of forced to survive, a bit like Alice when she kind of finds herself in this new world. And when they disappear, they go into this secret hideout, this basement that the twins nicknamed the rabbit hole. I looked at a lot of different fonts to try and connect to the narrative, and I think the centre one is the one I've chosen for my target audience. That was the best one. I think that this is because some of the letters are coloured in, and I think these represent holes, which then matches the words of the title. And the lettering is kind of quite curly, so it's like fantasy-like. And this then links to the inspiration of Alice in Wonderland. And I think also the holes can represent the plot holes within the narrative and the plot, so there's a lot of connotations. Similar to other BBC Three shows, such as 13, I think this show should be a time length of an hour. I think this would be a good time length to let the story, the characters to be introduced and the style to be recognised, as well as within an hour for the plot to kind of be developed. I also looked at this, the script for and planned the script for the opening scene. The opening scene will be pre-title sequence, so I kind of wanted to jump straight into action because there's a lot of teen dramas out there, and I think it's very important in that first pilot episode to kind of capture the audience straight away. From also my research with Riverdale, they had a strong narrative hook, so I think because there's my kind of with the title and the narrative, there's a lot of cliffhangers, which is a popular teen drama convention, and I think the opening scene dives straight into the plot, it leaves the audience with a lot of questions, so they would want to continue watching the episode. And the script in the first scene introduces two of the main characters, Maddie and Lucas, so the target audience can straight away get a feel of the characters and whether they can relate to them. This is the storyboard of the opening scene, so it goes with the script, and it's the visuals. So it kind of, it also begins in the location is a train station, so it'll be very recognisable to the target audience. Some of them, if they were in education, could use this to commute, and also people who have jobs. And it also shows the colouring and the sequence of the shots, so it's kind of very action-packed at the start, and then kind of settles down after the title sequence. So it's kind of, you're being thrown straight down to the plot, almost like you're being falling down a hole, which is the inspiration of the title. Meeting the budget, of course, it's a low budget, and from my research I know that BBC dramas have a low budget of £50,000 per episode. So to keep this, like I said, we'd use unknown actors would be casted instead of famous ones, and although the locations will be recognisable, there's some, for instance, the basement that the twins hide out in while they're figuring out the case, they almost use as their like crime research room to figure out the case, and I think this location could be built in a studio, which I think would save cost levels in terms of transport if we were to keep having to cost actors and equipment when everything to be in a studio I think would be a lot more efficient. Marketing and distribution, I think this will definitely help the budget because for the drama to be globally seen, depending on the success, I would have a joint venture with video on demand companies such as Netflix, and I've also seen that for example, BBC show Peaky Blinders also moved on to Netflix due to its success. And but first, in terms of scheduling, I think it should first appear on BBC Three on the scheduled time of 9 PM on Thursday nights, and then the next day to appear on Netflix, and for example Netflix, and I think this scheduling will prevent people from either leaking episodes on YouTube or watching them illegally online. And in terms of marketing, I think I would use social media heavily because this is where the target audience would be, because a lot of 15 to 21-year-olds would either have at least one form of social media, and also would prove efficient with low budget, seeing it as free. And I'm aware that BBC Three have their own social media accounts, such as Twitter, and I think this would be good to kind of link with, say, like the YouTube trailers when promoting the show. And adverts and sneak peeks of Down the Rabbit Hole could be also aired during primetime BBC programmes such as BBC One or BBC Two. In terms of legal and ethical issues, although that is on BBC Three online, it would still have to be appropriate for 15-year-olds plus. And when distributed on, I've seen on the BBC Three Times, there's a warning before you would watch, and the warnings that I would have for this programme would be strong language and mild violence, as following the sub-genre of crime, this is quite evident there. And depending on the success of the show, the drama would also have to meet the BBFC guidelines if it was to be distributed on DVD. And I've seen a tradition of BBC is that the cast is very and characters is very diverse and all from kind of different backgrounds. So I'd like to portray everyone equally and also make sure not to offend anyone. So that would be the ethical issues that I'd like to portray correctly. So why Down the Rabbit Hole? I think I've seen a lot of crime dramas, such as BBC's Line of Duty, that has a popular convention of adult characters. So I think bringing this type of style to a younger audience would be quite a large, unique selling point, as it's also bringing a new style. A lot of teen crime dramas have they're very American ties, so bringing this British style, I think, would be a good, unique selling point. Any questions? Yeah.
We've got a low budget, but if we got the chance of increasing our budget, say maybe to £75,000 or £100,000 per episode, what do you think would be some of the major changes that you would make that would reflect that bigger budget?
I know that a lot of BBC shows are kind of set in Manchester, but I quite like if it to be filmed in London, because I think a lot of teenagers these days that they're quite curious and interested about the cultures in London. I think there's could be a lot to do there with the storylines, and so that would be one. And I think also because it's quite a specific style, I think attention to detail on the locations, having a kind of a broad range, I think would help with the storylines, because with a convention of teen dramas, each character has their own storyline, so I think I would use the budget also on that.
You touched a little bit on like social medias and like how you market on social media, but what do you think what primarily would you use, like which social media platform would you use?
I think looking at the target audience of 15 to 21-year-olds, I think Twitter is quite easy to put out. It can be, it has different forms of, like, you can have videos on there for sneak peeks, and I think getting that straight away and keeping on top of mind of the audiences would be a good social media method to channel the promotion of the show.
Yeah, would there be like any kind of legal or ethical constraints when moving like your program over to like Netflix or like an on-demand platform?
Can I ask more in detail what you mean by that?
So like, would you have to like change your program to when moving on to like an on-demand platform? Like, would there be any kind of ethical issues like moving on to like, because like Netflix, Amazon Prime was like widely used around the world, but like your program will only be on the BBC, so it's mainly in the UK. So how would it change? Would you change it at all? Or?
I think I'd keep it the same because although it's not kind of like they may not relate as much to the British viewers. I think it's more of an interesting insight. So I think I'd speak to my team about that more. I think I'd keep it the same to keep it original, and it could.
I've got one final question that I'd ask you. How might you test your ideas a little bit more on, say, the target audience, just to see how, because I think your ideas work very well with us, but what would you do for the 15 to 21-year-olds just to find out what they think about your programme, so maybe it could be shaped a little more to the target audience?
I think I'd look into more focus groups. So although that the four main characters are between the ages 16 and 17, there is secondary characters that are older that would relate to, say, like the older segment of the like 21-year-olds. So I would say have a focus group and show them either the full pilot episode or a preview to see what they kind of think and whether they, if there's a gap in the market for it, if they think it can continue, or any kind of changes that they feel should have, or if it's too conventional. Although I want to focus on bringing a new style into the show. Yeah.
Thank you.